Students that focus on campus placement, they are completely dependent on the college. That way, even if there's an opportunity, they're just not well prepared and they lose it.
Like as a beginner, as a fresher, like you don't have a lot of projects, and when you don't have that, one of the things that you can start developing while you're also working on this portfolio, while you're looking for projects, is the networking aspect of it.
These bulk hiring companies don't even let you know what they're hiring you for. Depending on the upcoming project, they assign you anything, and you have no say in deciding on whether you want to work on it or not.
So you've submitted your resume, you have polished your LinkedIn, the placement season is here, but why does it still feel like panic mode? Well, today we are here to unpack all of that and more. So let's begin. My name is Yamini and welcome to HigherEd Horizon podcast, the show where we decode careers in the real world and bridge the gap between what students are taught and what recruiters are looking for. So let's kick things off with the traditional placement route. For most students, it's the default path, but is it always the smartest route? So, Suchin, why do you think campuses still focus too much on marks, aptitude, and safe jobs?
So I think from my perspective, what I see is they are in a way bound by the requirements of the university that they're affiliated with, which requires them to, do those number of courses. They have a certain agenda that they need to meet from the university point of view, and that doesn't always evolve at the pace, we would like it to, so to keep pace with the industry. So a lot of the methods are still a little old. And so nowadays the colleges are leveraging external vendors to try to bridge that gap. But even that, as as you mentioned, is a little late. Typically, the thought process kicks in only around, end of fifth semester, sixth semester, when some people start thinking about it. Most people even think about it as late as the beginning of their seventh semester. So I think that is one of the things which we kind of need to change the dynamic on, but that's one of the reasons why they are sort of in that mode right now.
Do you, just follow up question, do you look for marks when you're recruiting someone? Is that
It's not really. I mean, in our company, we don't give it that much importance. We look for basic because in a way, the volumes that of people that we need to interview are often high for the positions in India. So you need some sort of criteria to bring it down to a manageable level. So we do have some initial filtering, and companies have this as a practice for their campus placement jobs. They typically have as much as 10 standard marks, 12 standard marks, to cutoffs as well. So we don't go down to that depth, but we just look at it. We take into consideration the work that they have done. It's not a cutoff for us, but most recruiting through colleges does look at these marks as well as a threshold. But that's not a sufficient condition for you to do any, have any success at these, because everything begins after meeting that threshold and then being able to demonstrate, the skills that you bring to the table.
I think the employer has no other choice, because whether they believe in the marks or not, they are compelled to look at the marks. The reason being, they are given a very short amount of time to identify the candidates. So they may go for a campus placement drive. The drive may run for 1 or 2 days. And those 1 or 2 days, they are expected to pick, say, 4 or 5 people that they want to hire from hundreds of students, hundreds of applicants. It is not humanly possible to interview hundreds of people in that day and a half or so. So what is the way they can narrow down the number of candidates to a manageable number? And the easiest that people find out is, okay, let's set a threshold for the marks, because that way we'll get to a manageable number. And once we have a manageable number, we'll be able to interview them and we'll be able to identify the candidate. Every employer, I mean, at least the ones I know, and including us, if we have to do it, it's not a good feeling to have, because we know there could have been a brilliant coder or someone who would have fit the bill exactly what we're looking for, may not have done done well in their schoolwork, college work, but they may have been doing computer programming throughout during the college years, and they may actually have been better than the candidates that we chose. But unfortunately, because of the setup we are in and the compulsions that are there, to identify the right candidate, this seems to be the most fair system. Otherwise, you just have to randomly pick the number of the candidates that you're going to interview. You need some objective criteria, and the marks become the criteria. However, there can be other ways when you're not bound by those 2 days. So, say for example, when we hire directly, we're not bound by that we have to make a decision within 2 days. So in those cases, the most important skill that we look for is being able to communicate well, because we find out, communication is even way more important than other skills, because we can teach other skills a lot easily than teach people how to communicate in a better way. So we give everybody an opportunity to record themselves by asking them a set of questions, and it is sent through our platform called We Interview, and we have other platforms also that do it. So you are taking your self-taken interview, where we don't have to do them synchronously, where there is an interviewer there sitting next to them. They just open the link, they have a video question being asked, they have to record that video, and that video gets uploaded onto our servers. And just by watching, say, 10-15 seconds or sometimes a minute of that video, we have an idea whether this person is going to make it and be able to be a good teacher or what have you, whatever role they're in. And based on that 1 minute, we can either decide to shortlist them or not shortlist them, right? So now we are not utilizing the score as the first criteria to narrow down the list from, say, 7,000 to 100. We're using these 1 minute clips to make that decision, right? So every company has to make that decision to narrow down the number, but on campus that it may be a different approach, because you don't have an opportunity to send this kind of email, have them take repeat, self-taken test, self-taken video. They may use score in the college, but they may use a different approach when they are not doing it through campus placement. They're doing it, directly like we do.
Yeah, off campus meaning.
Off
Okay,
campus, correct.
interesting. Yeah. Tejashree, as a recent graduate, what do you think students relying solely on campus drives? What do you think about the students that solely rely on campus drives, and what are they risking if they are not applying for off-campus jobs?
If you're solely focusing on campus placements, you're automatically reducing the number of opportunities, or you're limiting your range of choices, because a very small pool of companies appear for placement drives in a college, and most of them are service-based, or they are looking to hire in bulk. So focusing only on placement drives, you may miss out on other opportunities as well. So you may be working in a cool startup or a product-based company, or even if you're looking to work in a different country. So usually international companies don't come for placement drives at home. So I think they're missing out on opportunities. I think that's the first thing and the biggest thing. And also these companies that appear for placement drives, they have a fixed sort of clearly paved out interview pattern. So usually they focus on aptitude or group discussions or one or two projects on their resume. So, and also there's no room for negotiation. You cannot negotiate on your salaries or your role. You cannot compare offers as well, because most of the offers look the same. So I think these are a couple of things that they might be missing out on.
Yeah, another thing I wanted to add is that you will excel and grow in your career if you like what you do. If people get stuck in a job that they don't like doing, how much ever effort they put in, the work is not going to be of an exceptional quality. And if their work is not of an exceptional quality, they will have very hard time, one, retaining the job, and two, being one of the star performers and growing in the company. So it's very important early on in your career to choose what you will either love doing right away, or what you can over time gain passion for. Sometimes you get into something and you may not have passion for it right away, but after you start doing it, and then you just learn to fall in love with it, right? And if it is neither of the two, then it's not a good idea to do it. And in many of these bulk hiring companies, when candidates are getting hired, I recently got to know about it. I didn't even know this is how it was done. These bulk hiring companies don't even let you know what they're hiring you for. Depending on the upcoming project, they assign you anything, and you have no say in deciding on whether you want to work on it or not. I mean, I don't think that's a right way to start your career, because it's like not putting your best foot forward, right? You could have been exceptional in something else, but now you're being assigned something right at the beginning of your career, which doesn't set you up for success. So I feel like Tejasvi said, you should look for all the options that are out there. There may be something exactly aligned with what your passions are, and you may be a great fit there. And as soon as they talk to you, they may find you have that amazing passion for the kind of work they do. And I think it may be easy to get that job. It may be easy to excel in that job. It may be easy to grow in that company.
Definitely, Vishal. And those companies do not value creativity and they do not reward creativity. So if you're looking for, let's say, something new in the industry, or like if you want to work on the cloud or cloud computing or go deep into machine learning or even become a DevOps engineer. So these companies do not have such a wide variety of roles for newly graduated students. So that's one of the things that they are definitely missing on. And I think College.Dev can offer such, fun internships and job opportunities for also someone who's graduated recently. And when it comes to the risks, I think there's a lot of missed learning opportunity, because if a students that focus on campus placement, they are completely dependent on the college. They sort of see it as a guaranteed way of getting a job. So they might be very cool about it and not prepare enough. So that way, even if there's an opportunity, they're just not well prepared and they lose it.
Yeah,
And this may cause panic.
and people need to realize this idea of campus placement is not a universal concept. And in America, that there is no idea of campus placement. You might go to the best college in the US, right? People may graduate from Harvard or Yale. There is no concept of campus placement. When you graduate, you got to look for the job yourself. So, if the whole world looks for opportunities by themselves to find the best fit for them, it's great that India also has campus placement. That should be one of the options and not the only thing that you pursue. You should first pursue to find the right job wherever it is, and then you also have an option of campus placement. Then make a choice on which one you like better and which one you are going to be more passionate about.
Yeah, that's right. And
So
also applying off
is
campus. Oh, sorry.
no, sorry, go on, go on.
Oh yeah, applying off campus also teaches you some critical skills that's needed in this industry, like how to tailor your resume or networking, how to follow up, also like how to handle rejection. So I think these are some of the things that the students might be missing out on if they focus solely on campus placements.
Just to add to that, I think our experience with some of the colleges also has been like Tejasvi said that they have a certain they have their requirement is to boost up the numbers in terms of placements, and that becomes an easy pitch for parents who are looking for admissions. So the importance that they give for bulk recruiters over smaller, more niche area recruiters is different. So they are very much interested and proactive about bringing an employer who would be hiring a larger number, as opposed to a smaller company which provides certain, really good opportunities. The college is not as interested in, bringing them on. So that's another area that we look to try to bridge in our, through our efforts here.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
is this
because the
myth that if
college's
you
interest,
even
yeah,
if
the college's interest, like as Sachin said, is to increase the number of people that got hired, right?
yeah, for colleges it's
College
the
doesn't,
numbers. For
yeah,
students, it's the
college
job.
doesn't they give much importance to whether each one of the students got the job that they were passionate about, because
Yeah.
that's not helping out in the marketing of the college to new students, right? What The new student's going to look at the percentage of people that got placed. So if you are looking for something that you're passionate about, I think, like everybody here is saying, that you should have college as one of the options, but that should not be the only option. There's a whole world of possibilities. There are so many companies in India. There are international opportunities. There are freelancing opportunities. There are opportunities with startups which may just be starting off, and it may not even be a fully established company where you get to work on everything from end to end. I have always been biased towards new graduates taking up roles in companies which may not even have an office yet, or which may not even have things sorted out yet. Because the smaller the company is, the larger your responsibilities will be. You'll be, operations person also, and you'll be able to do something, system design also. You'll be able to work on front end also. You'll be able to work on back end also. You'll be able to work on AI related features also. The breadth of experience you will get, and the journey of putting all the puzzle pieces together to create something which is going to end up in the hands of end users who are going to use it. That journey is magical. And with that experience, even if you don't stay with them in the long run, when you go to some other place, that person's ability to put things together, that person's experience is far superior to someone who may have gone to a top tier company. Because in a top tier company, you're a cog in a wheel, right? Cog in a machine, right? Where your role is very small, portion of the whole project, and you don't know anything beyond what your role is. So you can imagine for yourself who's going to be more valuable after that few years of experience: someone who can just put the whole thing together, or someone who just knows one little thing which may not even be applicable in the next role they are in, because that company might be doing that part differently or using a different technology.
Right. So, yeah, we've established that campus placements are the part of the puzzle, but they're not the end game. So now the next question begins, that what really sets the candidates apart from thousands of people applying for the same jobs? So let's talk about documents and digital footprints. A clean resume may get you noticed, but is that enough today? So, Vishal, do recruiters today care more about a well-designed resume or your online footprint? And we hear a lot about tailoring your resume according to ATS, the applicant tracking system. Um, can you just explain a little bit how it actually works if you know? And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a common concern among candidates that we don't even get to the stage where we get a phone call back from the company where we have applied. And usually the first phone call is from somebody in the HR department. So most likely that someone in the HR department will not understand the technical aspects of what you would have done. And it is understood that the HR department is making a decision based on the ATS's recommendation, right? So ATSs are these applicant tracking systems that look for keywords in the resume. If the keywords match with the that job description, then it gives it a score. And if if the score is high, and meets some basic requirements of like prerequisites of what the company might be looking for, then you may get a call and first round of interview may get scheduled. So that being said, you may get a call just by stuffing in keywords in your resume, because you feel like, okay, if I add all the technology keywords, depending on any job that I apply, it will meet the requirements because I have added every kind of technology that you can think of. You may get the call, but that call is not going to lead to a job, because the person who is being interviewed, the first thing that the interviewer looks at is what is in your resume. Even if the resume has something very small amount of technical experience mentioned, as long as you can justify everything that you have mentioned in the resume, you're going to be considered far better candidate than someone who has mentioned a lot but cannot justify most of what is mentioned, right? Even if you have one technology or skill that you have mentioned, you can't justify that. That's a really bad impression about the candidate. If they just took that one skill out and they justified everything else, they would have been far better off. So candidates usually get desperate to get that call, but in that process, they um, overpitch themselves and they start claiming that they know more than what they actually know. And I think that impacts the credibility of the candidate, and that's usually not a good strategy to get a job. Just apply for each job, like when you're applying, don't make one resume for everything. You may have one standard resume with exact skills of what you have, and then depending on the job, if you feel like, oh, based on that job I have most of what I need, what the job is asking for, however there is one skill that the job is looking for, I have beginner level knowledge of that skill, you can write I have beginner level knowledge. So you're now customizing your resume slightly to meet the requirement of the job, but you're not making things up. You're not just claiming something to know which you do not know. You're saying that that particular skill, which was additional skill needed, you know it at the beginner level, so that when you go to the interview, you can justify that beginner level knowledge for that particular skill also.
Okay. So what are some resume or online presence red flags that makes you instantly doubt a candidate's seriousness? This is to you and Sujin both. So yeah.
Yeah, same thing. Too many technologies mentioned, when you yeah, when you look at the resume and you feel like they have mentioned every programming language that you can think of, right? Every framework that you can think of. That means they really are not serious about knowing any of them, because it's not possible that the person would have worked on every single one of them, right? Uh, Arvind can
Yeah.
mention more or Suchin can mention more. I think biggest red flag I see is that when I see too much on the resume, and from my experience having interviewed hundreds of people, if not more, is that it's usually never true that someone who would have mentioned just limited number. They usually are very thorough in whatever they have mentioned and usually turn out to be great candidates. If you look at someone who has mentioned in a resume, there's nothing left out, right? And that's usually a red flag.
Yeah, I think while we're on this point, it's very important to mention that a one-page resume is a really good resume. Any normal person would get really overwhelmed if you're interviewing someone with more than 1 or 2 pages of resume. You have to go through so many things. You have to figure out what that person has done, and while you put in that effort and then figure out what that person has done, you ask them something, you pick out something, and you ask them something, and they don't know about it. That's a really big red
And
flag.
also, if the resume is not formatted correctly, for me, that's very off-putting. They may have a great resume, but they didn't even put in the effort to format it. It shows that you're not really caring about, you don't care about attention to detail, right? You don't care about perfection. That shows the character, that shows the personality. So somebody may be technically great, but if they don't have that ability to be persistent till they make their product really great, they're usually not going to turn out to be great employees, right? So it may have typos, formatting may be off, there may be multiple fonts used in multiple paragraphs, something that could have been nicely put in bullet points is not, it's just mentioned as a running text, it becomes harder to read. Some sections have headings bolded and some sections do not have it bolded. So these just give away the personality of a person, right? Even before you talk to them, creates an impression about them which is not favorable.
Okay. I have one last question in this. Do hiring managers actually Google candidates and what are they looking for if they are hoping to see anything? Is that a common thing that's happening right now?
Yeah. I usually do not Google them unless I get doubtful about them,
Hmm.
right? There are some candidates you get suspicious about because their resume, their experience doesn't make sense. It feels like there's a gap in which they are not being honest about, right? It feels like what they have mentioned in the resume, they can't justify the skill they would have gotten if they did that job, right? Many times people write stuff in their resume. They mention, I worked at this company in control systems for 1 year. And when you talk to them about control systems, they don't even have no idea, right? And usually the cases that they would have gotten, say, a made up experience certificate from somewhere or just made up a job experience. So usually those candidates stand out when you do an interview, and it could be different for other people. Me as an interviewer usually will not even think of googling a candidate until I get doubtful about them. And if I get doubtful about them, then I do Google them.
Yeah. I mean, in my case, I think I don't Google either. If I do, typically it would be for maybe some of the design applicants to see if they have any sort of work out there, or maybe a LinkedIn profile. The social media handles are typically not something that we pay any attention to, unless, like Vishal said, right, there are some red flags that you want to, clarify prior to the meeting or after the meeting. But largely, it is not something that we've done.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's great. So moving on to the next segment, we know now how to build a good resume. We know that placements cells are not the only way to go. So for a student who's not yet placed in any of the placement drives, how can a student basically build their resume without zero experience, no internships? So Shiv, let's imagine I am a college student with no internships. What's the first thing that I can do today to build a brand or a portfolio that recruiters will notice?
I think like as a beginner, as a fresher, like you don't have a lot of projects, and when you don't have that, one of the things that you can start developing while you're also like working on this portfolio while you're looking for projects is the networking aspect of it. You can reach out to people like, okay, hey, I see that this app that you're working on, I can design something for you. Hey, I see that there is a college fest approaching. Maybe I can design like some material for that. And it works the other way around too. Like, hey, I saw this design that you made. I can create an app just by using that design. So you can add those projects very quickly. That helps with one of the things where like your creativity, because it's like an open field. You don't have any projects at the start, so you can just choose whatever you want to make. If you want to streamline it though, you can also go for look up the jobs that you eventually want to go for. Like if you want to go in a specific industry, look up people's portfolio in that industry specifically. How do they work? How do they design a specific project? And try to recreate that. One of the things that genuinely did help me was I looked for things that I used on a regular basis, and I thought like how I could improve those, and I started just like designing that. Um, the other like one problem that this does not cover is the confidence in your projects. When you're putting a project on your portfolio, it's not a question of like why should I put it there. It's also a question of like why should a recruiter see this? Like why am I considering this as a project? Because obviously you can change your resume, change your CV based on the job that you're applying for. Doing that for a portfolio would be like very hectic. It would require a lot more effort doing that again and again for like so many jobs that you're applying for. So when you are putting that project on that portfolio, starting like from the beginning, if your question is that like, why would I want a recruiter to see this? Helps you reevaluate a lot of decisions that you make in that project, and it helps with a lot of your presentation when you show that. So it's mainly about just approaching people, just like designing things for free, just to get that down on your project list, and then just developing this aspect of like, okay, I want this project to be seen, but why? Like it's because putting that project on your portfolio because I didn't have any project is just as good a reason as any. But why would a recruiter want to see that? Why would I care? Like if I'm looking for like like if I want to hire someone, why should I consider this portfolio over the other one, even though this project might not cater to specifically something that I'm looking for? So you have to also think in that direction.
Okay.
Yeah,
So what
one
about
more
the
thing
right
for
ones?
portfolio I want to mention, because I've hired quite a number of designers just by looking at portfolio on Behance or Dribble or something like that. And if I see a portfolio with say 5 designs, right? An app design, a website design, another website design, just 5 designs. and all 5 of them look amazing, right? And I see another portfolio with 10 designs. 6 of the designs look amazing, rest of them look okay to mediocre. Which one do you think I'm going to be drawn towards? I'm going to be drawn towards the one who had 5 amazing ones. If the other guy who had 6 amazing ones, if he had deleted the rest of them and or had not uploaded the rest of them there, I would have been drawn towards the other guy would have had 6 great designs. So it's important to stop our urge to show everything that you have made. It's important to show to the world only the best of your work, right? If you look at the best photographers also, right? They don't show you all the pictures they have taken. Or when movies are made, when they edit, they don't show you the whole uncut version. They only show you the edited version. So it's important after you create designs or create your work, you only showcase to the world your best work, because that's the impression they'll carry about you.
A lot of students also have accounts on LinkedIn's, like Shiv mentioned that networking is a key if you're a fresher. So a lot of students have those accounts on LinkedIn, even GitHub, even Medium, but they don't know how to use it. Do you guys can you recommend some of these platforms to students first and how to actually use them? So Shiv, for example, if you're doing design or something, then I think Medium and Dribble are the 2 platforms that we would recommend them. And what do you have any recommendations that that they can start with from today?
As a beginner, like Dribble and Behance work really well because you can just like put your portfolio over there. Medium helps when you have to write a case study. Like again, you have to explain your intention behind the design. Usually Dribble and Behance don't do well in that regard because there is not a lot of text options. So if you have to explain an intention behind, like specifically in UI UX, it's more important that like how did you come to this decision instead of just the design, this layout. So in order to explain that, it would be helpful if like it's usually a balance between the two, like Dribble and Medium, where you have the beautiful high fidelity designs on Dribble, and then you can explain your thought process on Medium or any other, like even Blogspot works, wherever you can put pictures and text together just to explain your decisions.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Arvind, there's often a hype about GitHub. Do recruiters actually check it, and what makes a profile stand out versus it looking empty?
I think some people don't even have GitHub profiles when they're applying for jobs. And when you do have a GitHub profile and you're applying for a technical job, it gives you a head start. It sets you apart from everybody else. And it's most likely that you will include this GitHub URL or profile in your resume. Uh, People who hire do look at projects that you worked on. And when it's your GitHub profile, you need to know that it should be something that you worked on exclusively. It should not be a project that you copied from the internet and you tried learning from it. It should be something that you did hands on. And it is important to have meaningful projects. It's it could be a to-do list, it could be a note manager, but it's important to know that you should learn something from it. I would stress on 4 things that you should ideally have if you have a GitHub profile. uh, the first thing is that every GitHub project that you create, it's called a repository, and every repository should have something called a readme file. A readme file is like instructions about the repository or the folder. Most of them might know about this already. And the README file should be easy to understand. It should not be very complicated. Anyone who looks at your profile should be able to clearly understand what that project does, how to run the project, what are the outcomes, etc. At any point of time you had to show this project to someone who's hiring or a recruiter, you should be able to note the outcomes of the project. If there is something unique in your project, you should be able to talk about that. You should also be able to tell what you learned during the course of the project and what challenges you faced and how you overcame those challenges. If you have these questions answered even before you go to a recruiter, I think this sets you apart from a lot of other people who just copy a lot of projects, put it on their GitHub just for the sake of it, have a fancy GitHub profile, and then go to an interview. It's important to have things that you worked on. It's important to know what you worked on and then what that project does.
And if you are able to contribute in an open source project, a project that is being actively maintained, where you are going to be active contributor. That way, that open source project is going to be, the code is going to be available to everyone, including your employer will be able to see it. And they will also be able to see your contributions, how many contributions you made, at what frequency, and all of that, right? And it is not easy to fake that, because your contribution is one of the contributions among many. And other people have to be in agreement with your contribution, and they have to have merged your code into the code base. So there can't be anything better than, that's the best resume of your ability, right? Because you can't fake that. You can say anything in your resume, but you cannot just put any code in your repository, because it's a contribution by many. It's like a collective effort. The other people are not going to be in agreement with putting something there if it's not good, if they don't agree with it. So if someone has that level of skill and they are able to do it, then I mean it's far superior to any resume if they're able to do it. And then they are able to showcase that in their resume, point the person towards the online project wherever you are an active contributor, right? I also like seeing non-work related activities that people do to demonstrate that they are persistent, right? So if I see someone has reached level 8 of playing piano through Trinity Music exams, right? It's completely unrelated to the work they do, but it sends a message that you're not willing to let things go in between. You try to finish it up all the way till the level 8, right? So if someone says they are 2000 plus rated chess player, it's not easy to become a 2000 plus rated chess player. You need a lots and lots of effort to become that 2000 rated. It shows that you are persistent, right? If someone says they represented their college they were a college level tennis player, it's nothing to do with the work you have to do. It again shows that persistence, that hard work. You're willing to put in that kind of effort to get you to that level. So similarly, if you have that kind of personality, you likely do the same for your regular work also. And if people have these kind of accomplishments, they should not hesitate to mention them in the resume. It does help.
That was going to be my next question, actually. So we can move on to the next segment. So let's talk about what's beyond the screen. In interviews, Vishal, what soft skills are often missing in freshers today?
I mean, if I interview people from India, many times they just don't make eye contact. I think many people miss out on opportunity just because they just don't look a person in the eye, and they don't have the confidence to initiate even a greeting, right? So if I was in charge of running a school or a college in India, that's what I would focus on first, because it's such a slow hanging fruit. You would go to a class every day and you would make it a habit that everybody has to greet everyone. You get up, look the teacher in the eye and say, "Hello, Mr. So and so, it was nice to meet you." You see somebody in the hallway, if you're seeing them for first time in the day, you look them in the eye and just say, hey, it's good to see you, right? With a smile. And it cannot happen. If I cannot expect a candidate to come and say, okay, now prepare for it today, tomorrow you have interview. It doesn't work like that, because even if they prepare for it the day before, the next day they have an interview, that smile will come across as forced smile. That greeting will come across as rehearsed. There will not be any genuineness in it, right? So it just really, really bothers me that it's such a small little thing, and every single large multinational company, or even companies in India which are large enough and have international clients, they all look for these skills, and somehow the schools and colleges have not prioritized it.
Vishal, I had a quick question about that. Usually, when somebody is going to an interview as a fresher, there are a lot of nerves. Everybody's nervous. They're usually scared. It's a new person that they're meeting. Until that point of time in their life, they've only met teachers or lecturers that they're relatively friendly with, easy to talk to. They have a slightly higher level of comfort talking to. How would anyone who is in their final year of college be prepared to face someone who is, at least in terms of career, superior to them and new to them? Because
I
when
mean,
I go to an interview, the expectation, like you mentioned, is that I am being observed, right? The purpose of me going to an interview is that I'm being judged. So everything that I'm doing is being judged. I might wear something that's not professional. I might not have a clean groomed hairstyle.
yes.
Everything is being judged. When there are so many things running in a candidate's mind, how can these guys be prepared for something that they have no clue about?
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but the problem is not universal, right? What you mentioned is okay, it's every single fresher who doesn't have experience having worked with having interviewed with senior people from companies, and they may get nervous. It has a lot to do with privilege. I see people who are coming from families where where the children are comfortable speaking in English. They have been exposed to meeting new people. They have international exposure. They have, you know, they have friends who talk to them in English. They somehow have that confidence, not just in speaking well. They also have that confidence in carrying themselves and being able to greet a stranger. And it's usually those people who don't come from that privileged background, and they may have worked really hard to complete their bachelor's degree, and they may even have gotten good score, and they usually have that some that hesitation in them. There is just psychologically they feel that I am not capable of doing this, right? I'm not capable of making that eye contact, right? So their families have not been able to get them out of there, because the families may this person may be the first generation engineer in the family, right? I mean, so the families are not able to give them that confidence. So who should we rely on to give that confidence to them? I feel that the colleges have to do a better job, and if the colleges do a better job, then you won't have this privilege issue of some people who come from certain family background and they seem to do well, and the others who don't come from a similar background, they don't do that well.
That makes sense. And also, privileged or not privileged, the students, they can put themselves out there, get a little bit out of their comfort zone, maybe participate in team challenges. If they have difficulty with communicating with people, they can start participating in a team, maybe code something together with their friends, make new friends, and they can start from their class or school and slowly move out. They can participate in communities. So I think these kind of things will really help it, get the confidence naturally instead of forcing it or sitting in a classroom and learning soft skills.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
I
I
Community
mean,
is
at
actually.
first,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
first there has to be acceptance, right? The background I grew up with, when I was growing up, my parents or my uncles never told me that you have to be a good communicator to do well in life. I was always told study, right? Study math, physics, chemistry. And when I went to college, I realized there were lots of kids from business background or whose parents were in senior positions in multinational companies. They were very particular about speech and debate and public speaking and this and that, right? So the acceptance has to be there first, that these kind of skills are as important, if not more important. And somehow there it again comes to privilege. The ones who have that privilege of that exposure, they are prioritizing it for their children. And the ones who don't have that exposure, they are not even believing it is important.
Yeah, I feel like one thing that might be a really good differentiator is these guys who are shy, or let's say interview nervous about interviews, they, if they can put in extra effort to come out of their comfort zone and then talk to not newer people of the same age, probably take part in communities, talk to someone who's slightly eh, older than them, and then get comfortable with having conversations with those guys. I think if they happen to do that, they'll slightly be able to overcome this uh, fear, or the nerves around the interview. Because, like I mentioned, the only guys you talk to at that point of time in your college are your friends who are the same age, and you're most likely conversing them in a very informal language, or not even in English. And if it's elderly people, it's probably your relatives. You don't talk to anybody else other than that. So if they happen to get comfortable talking to elderly, or slightly I wouldn't say elderly, slightly senior, someone who has more experience. Because at least in India, people who are slightly more aged have more respect. It's innate. It's not. So if I get into a company and there is someone who's in the company for more than 3 4 years, the respect that person has is not because of the experience, it's because he's older. it's it's there in the culture. So people who are not from privileged backgrounds, like you mentioned, have that fear in them when they're talking to elderly people. So if they can get comfortable talking to other guys outside, that does not even have to be someone from the industry. It could be people outside college. It could be general conversations that you can have, respectfully greet, even when you go to a shop, right? If you can respectfully greet the shopkeeper and then have an eye-to-eye conversation with him, I think that somehow has a big impact on the overall soft skills that you'll end up building.
And also being able to be free, right? I mean, if you look at everybody in this meeting right now, when we are talking, we are freely having a conversation. Everybody has a smile on their face. And I have seen a lot of people who may be the most jovial people, but as soon as they come to an interview, they get incredibly serious. Like, it's like, I'm on duty right now. I'm not supposed to smile, right? I mean, it may be true that, the people that they have seen around them when they are on duty, that's how they are expected to be. But if they are applying for a job in a multinational company in a tech role, or say customer service role, or somewhat, where they may sometimes have a customer interaction, we expect people to be confident in themselves, have a smile on their face, come across as likable. Likability is a very important skill to have. And how do you come across as likable in a 10-minute phone call or a video call, right? Having that smile on your face, and you don't you don't come across as annoyed or grumpy. So those are also skills that they have to gain, which a lot of students miss out on.
I think it's also a very cultural thing, especially like in India, because we have a tendency to develop like templates, like, okay, this is what successful way of doing something is. So when you are in an interview and anything deviates from that template, suddenly you get like nervous. Like, for example, like in my college, something to deal with the problem that Arvind presented, that like you're meeting someone new, like for an interview, how would you deal with the nervousness? We used to have drills for like, okay, how are you supposed to present yourself in an interview? These are the questions that will be asked. But the problem was, as soon as your answer deviates from like a standard way of like, okay, this is not how you should have like presented your strengths and weaknesses, like this, just an example. But as soon as that was done, it was suddenly like, no, you should not have said that. You should have done it this way. And it leads to this like over rehearsedness like in a candidate, where again, I remember a lot of my batchmates when they used to sit in interviews, and there was a question asked very clearly, but they were not answering that question. That question was repeated multiple times, but they were still not answering that question because they rehearsed for a separate, like, different question completely. But it, because at least maybe the wording was similar, maybe something else was like similar. So I think colleges do, or colleges or in general, the culture does prime the candidates to stick to like what works. And it is a very Indian thing. We are very good at like reverse engineering something that, okay, this is what works. So we'll try to stick to it as much as possible. And that leads to like, again, if you ask a different question, suddenly it deviates from that template. Now I don't know what to do. And suddenly my confidence collapses while I'm like, I'm supposed to, like, I know my skills, but I don't know the answer to that specific question now.
Yeah, you have to come across as genuine, right?
Yeah.
This rehearsing is not going to help in any interview. And then if you could have answered something out of your experience or intellect without even having the knowledge of a topic, it would have been a lot better than you answering something completely unrelated to what's being asked, because that's what you rehearse. So you don't come across as genuine, right? You come across as someone who just has trying to say something that's rehearsed, and no employer likes that, because they want to know you as a person. They want to know you who you are as a person and what your personality is, and what kind of answers you are able to give based on your own thoughts. And if those thoughts also are not cannot be figured out, then there is not comfort level in an employer to make a decision about getting you on board.
Yeah. And if you see, like, even if you're getting interviewed by people who are, 8, 10 years into their career, it is very easy for them to spot genuineness, especially if you're claiming something that you did something, and the way you talk about it becomes very evident as to how much you actually know about that subject. It's very easy for someone with that much of experience to be able to spot that. So it is better in many ways to undersell what you know, and then talk about it with maybe a little more confidence than you initially led them to believe.
Yep.
Yeah, I
I
think it's
mean,
important for at least freshers to know that recruiters are not going to be like their teachers. Some of them actually take the effort to make you feel comfortable. It's okay that they put in extra effort to make you feel okay, not nervous. And that's what happens, right? While you're in college, you're always being corrected. There is this mindset that every teacher is strict. It's there's a set way, and when you sit for an interview, you expect the recruiter also to be that strict and corrective about whatever you're doing, which is not going to be the case. It's going to be uh, casual, it's going to be friendly and straightforward. Nobody is going to scold you or talk to you rudely just because you did not know something. If you don't know something, they're just going to move on to the next thing that they want to ask you.
I mean, that may be a mixed experience, at least what I have heard from people in colleges. Occasionally, there are, people who are interviewing them who take this attitude of, why don't you already know this? Sort of, line of questioning, which happens, in which case, I feel you don't need to get overwhelmed by what they're saying. You know what you know, you can't change it then in that moment. So, you got to be genuine and try to take whatever you can out of that experience. I think there's also a mindset on the students' end in a way that my success is the college and the teacher's responsibility. So if I don't know something, it's because I wasn't taught by the people who are supposed to teach me. And that, I think, is a mindset that students should move away from in college, right? The whatever is being provided to them is a additional to what would be their own efforts and their own learning. So it's not that if somebody can prepare them for everything, it will be them who has to focus on acquiring those skills.
yeah, most interviewers will be friendly, most of them. Because if you have interviewed people for a while, you tend to realize over time that the more comfortable you make the candidate, the better you can gauge them and figure out whether they are a good fit or not. If you make them nervous, they're going to be guarded, right? They're not going to let their personality be revealed. And how are you going to figure out whether they're a good fit or not? You're doing disservice to yourself. And usually, if there is a combative, confrontational interviewer, they're usually new. They have been new to this, and they have yet not figured out the right way to interview. There will be some like that because they are newer and they want to just, they have been put in this position where they feel like they got authority and I'm going to, you know, leverage this authority today because I feel like a boss, right? But those are usually few interviews. They will not be, most of them will not be like that.
Okay, that was interesting. I can you, Sachin, can you recall a candidate who wasn't technically sound but stood out for other reasons, and what were those reasons?
So yeah, so I mean, so we I think have had quite a few of them because we our roles that we hire for have a dual requirement of someone who communicates well as being technically strong. And like Vishal mentioned, in our experience, it has been tougher for teaching somebody the communication aspect of it as opposed to the technical aspect. So when we have interviewed people in the past, and I think the most across the board, irrespective of which position it is, the ones who come with a strong greeting, are smiling and happy through the interview, are open to say what they don't know, are okay, and very honest and upfront people who are receptive to feedback would be the kind of people. And we have had it's quite a few of such people that we have given a chance, and I think it has mostly always worked out.
Yeah. So if so far, whoever has come across as honest and has clearly said, I don't know this, but I'm willing to learn, right? In most of the cases, we have decided to give them a chance because we realize that if somebody has the right attitude and they have good communication skills already, it is easy to train them technology because we trained 9-year-olds technology. Why can't we teach a college student technology as long as they have that drive to learn? And in most cases, it has worked out. Usually someone who may have come with the skills already may have taken 4 weeks to learn it, and someone who may not have been so thorough in tech may take 8 or 12 weeks to learn it, or maybe even a little longer. How does it matter? But we know that that person will not have, we don't have to worry about that person when it comes to customer service skills. We don't have to worry about that person, when it comes to being prompt coming to work, right? um, but they won't make up excuses for not being able to do something, right? They will take ownership and accountability. So these life skills or these soft skills, you every employer looks, values them more than just the technical skills. At the end of the day, you want people who you can rely on, right? And if you can find candidates where you feel like they're honest and they're, when they mess up, they say, I messed up, but I'm going to fix it and not let it happen again. And those are the kind of people you want in the team, because those are the people that will not just grow themselves, they will grow other people around them.
Arvind, what are some of the most underrated soft skills that students should develop today that will pay off in interviews and on the job?
I think, like we spoke about already, if you can look someone in the eye and have an honest conversation with them, have clarity in whatever you're trying to communicate, that's more than enough. If you're able to clearly convey what you're feeling, or it could be anything. For example, let's say you're trying to work on something that was assigned to you, but you're not interested to do that. There's always a good way to say it or communicate it with your employer. Let's say you want to take a leave on like we discussed last time. Let's say you want to take a leave in the first month of your job. There's always a good way to say it. If you can talk to your employer eye to eye, honest, not be rude about it while you're still polite, I think that stands out above everything. If you can, that naturally shows that you're confident, uh, you're clear in what you want to convey, and it takes you a long mile. It really helps.
Before we wrap this session up, I just want to ask one more question. Do you guys agree with the fact that if should students should they list their soft skills on their resume, and do hiring teams evaluate those skills as well?
I
No.
mean, if you're mentioning your soft skills, how does the employer know that it's not just keyword stuffing? And are you really different than others who may have applied as well, right? So I think rather than just it being on the resume, it's important to make the most of the interview calls you're going to get. When it comes to resume, make the resume as impressive looking as you can. Make sure it doesn't have any typos. Keep it limited to one page. Make it such that when the hiring manager or a recruiter looks at it, it comes across as someone who's honest, right? They're not just throwing anything out there to get a call. And once you get that opportunity to have a conversation with either a recruiting person like from HR or a hiring manager, showcase those soft skills that you have, right? Dress well for an interview. Do not come in a hoodie, but that shows disrespect towards them towards the interviewer, because you don't even have the courtesy to dress up well for the interview. Put in a dress shirt, iron it, you know, fix your hair, and have good lighting. If it's a remote interview, make sure you have good lighting. Not be in a dark corner in your room, and don't where you don't even open the window. Or if it's an evening time, have nice, sit in a place where you can be easily seen by the interviewer, and then look them in the eye and have an honest conversation. It is There is no right or a wrong answer. Say what you really believe in. Don't try to remember that paragraph or the sentence you had rehearsed or someone told you is the right answer. That's not the right answer. Right answer is what is coming from your heart. Because what is the interviewer looking for? They're not looking for the right answer. They're looking for what you believe in. Right? And unless it's a technical question and right answer, right? Most of the questions that good interviewers ask are personality questions. Because like I said, if in good interviewers who have done it for a while, they value personality more than the tech skills, because they feel that the tech skills, as long as it's the right personality, right attitude, you can learn the tech skills. So if it's a personality based question, they're looking for your genuine answers. And it's not it's try to be contrarian, right? If you heard 10 people say the same answer, but when you think about that problem, you have a different opinion about it, share that different opinion, right? If the interviewer is hearing the same answer from every candidate, that's not memorable, right? I'm not going to remember that person because I know that everybody says the same answer. Who am I going to remember? Someone who said something fresh, something new. That was their own thought, own idea, right? And I feel that, I grew up in India. I feel that when I was growing up, these thinking different was not encouraged. I was just told, do whatever everybody does. Answer exactly the same way everybody does, right? But then it doesn't make you interesting, does it? A person is interesting only when they're different. So if you have different ideas, different thoughts about a particular topic, just share them.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think anybody should mention soft skills on their resume, no matter what. For as long as let's say it's a language requirement, you're applying for a sales job that requires you to, let's say, know how to speak in Hindi. In that case, it makes sense. But let's say I met someone and then I tell them I'm a really nice guy. On what basis will they even believe me, right? It has no value. If somebody is writing on their resume that their vocabulary is really good, or let's say they're very loyal, there is no basis for it. Soft skills have to come across when you talk to the person live, right? So writing or mentioning soft skills on a resume is a big no, at least for
Yeah,
me.
I mean, it may, if you say I can speak well with people, right? I can make it'll be like it may come across as the person is narcissistic, right? You just got to be careful. You have to come across as genuine people, some kind,
Mm.
humble. Like
But
humility is also important, right? You
but
don't
what
you don't want to overdo it where you feel like you question a person's humility.
right? But what about if someone is listing their soft skills as a part, like if maybe they were a group team leader, or
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
maybe they joined this club, they were a part of this volunteering club.
Yeah, if somebody tells me they ran a Toastmasters club, I can safely assume that they are great communicators.
So if
And
they
I
are in
will
that
interview. I will
context,
call them for an interview.
yeah, if they are in that context, it's fine. But if you're just,
Absolutely, because
yeah,
they're not boasting about them being good communicator. They are showcasing their experience, which automatically infers that they are great communicators.
Right.
right.
So it has to be inferred for as long as it's inferred. Like Vishal mentioned, if
So
someone writes on their resume that they ran a Toastmasters club for let's say 5 years, it's inferred that they're a good communicator. But it's not fancy to write communicated well and ran a Toastmasters club for 4 years. It does not come across well.
correct. You're right. Okay, thank you for that. That was really insightful. Let's wrap up this session with a few takeaways. So we discussed that campus placements are a step, but they are not the end game. Build your personal brand. Don't outsource it to just a template. Make your resume spotless. Soft skills are what convert your potential into proof. So be consistent, and you don't have to stay in one lane. Get out of your comfort zone and eliminate your self doubt. So if this episode gave you clarity, share it with a college friend who might be preparing for placements, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. See you next time.